Imagine signing a 30-year mortgage and just handing over your entire life savings for a house that you were strictly forbidden from ever seeing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's quite the investment.
Right. I mean, you can't visit the property, you can't look at photos, and you definitely can't check the blueprints. You simply have to take the real estate agent's word that this magnificent estate exists somewhere out there in the dark.
Which nobody in their right mind would do in real estate.
Exactly. But according to a rather explosive essay recently published by author Lin She-yang, that scenario is exactly how major world religions operate at their structural core.
Yeah, and we are unpacking Lynn's essay today for this deep dive. It's titled, in translation, Religious Beliefs Are Fundamentally Superstition, and it's dated August 16th, 2026.
That's a heavy title.
It really is. And because this text aggressively deconstructs the architectural blueprint of, how humans conceptualize the divine, I do want to set a clear baseline for you listening. We are analyzing the mechanics of Lynn's argument here.
Right, we're not taking sides.
Exactly. Our role is to act as your guides through his logic and his historical frameworks. We're not here to endorse his conclusions or, debate ultimate theological truths. We are just looking at the machinery of his philosophy.
And the very first gear in that machinery is his definition of faith. Lin specifically points to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and he argues that they share this foundational gatekeeper strategy.
The prerequisite, basically.
Yeah, the primary requirement. Before you learn any moral codes or join any community, you must first unconditionally believe in the existence of their specific deity. You have to believe in the unseen house before you're allowed to know anything about the neighborhood.
Right, and Lin uses a very specific phrase for this, which is believing it into existence.
Believing it into existence. I like that.
Yeah, he argues that in these traditions, the deity's functional reality relies entirely on the believer's cognition. Like, even if the foundational concept is illusory, the sheer collective force of human belief gives it functional power in the real world.
Because, if millions of people act like it's real, it functionally becomes real within that society.
Exactly. Because believers accept the deity's existence, the deity operates within their societal structures.
Yeah.
But and this is the kicker, because this entire edifice is built on the foundation of subjective belief rather than, empirical, observable reality, Lin reaches his first major conclusion.
Which is?
That at its absolute core, the structure is just superstition.
Wow. If the entire system only survives as long as people believe in it, doubt becomes an existential threat. It's not just questioning a rule, it's threatening to erase the whole universe they've built.
Exactly.
Which really explains why those traditions place such a massive premium on unwavering faith.
It does, yeah. And Lin actually builds a spectrum to categorize this, because he doesn't just throw the word superstition around as a casual insult, Yeah. He uses it as a literal metric.
Okay, so how does this spectrum work?
Well, on one end, you have shallow belief. And on the other end, deep belief. In Lin's framework, they are inextricably linked to superstition. So the firmer your belief, the deeper your superstition.
Oh, interesting. So they scale together.
Yes. He draws a really sharp dividing line here. On one side of the line is what he calls half-belief, which he defines as speculation or opportunism. And on the other side is unwavering belief. And that unwavering belief is what religious institutions define as true faith.
So when someone claims to have, absolute unwavering religious faith, Lin is categorizing them as possessing the maximum possible depth of superstition.
That's his argument, yes.
They have fully committed to the unseen house. I'm curious, though, does he think there is a reliable historical barometer for this? Because it's one thing to say you believe in an unseen deity, right?
Right.
But a true test of that unwavering superstition would be, seeing how much a society is actually willing to risk on it.
Well, he offers a fascinating historical barometer for exactly that. He brings up the Western tradition of dueling.
Dueling? Like with swords?
Swords, or, whether it's medieval trial by combat or pistols at dawn in the 18th century, Lin uses the duel to illustrate the absolute peak of unwavering belief in action.
Okay, unpack that for me. How does shooting someone at dawn prove deep superstition?
Because in these historical contexts, combatants rarely fought just to settle a petty grievance. They fought because they possessed this fundamental structural belief that their cause was just, and more importantly, that an all-powerful creator knew their cause was just.
Oh, I see. So they were operating under the assumption that the universe possessed a built-in moral referee?
Yes, exactly.
They literally believed God would actively suspend or manipulate physical reality to ensure the righteous party won the fight.
That's it. The outcome of the duel wasn't viewed as a measure of physical skill. It was interpreted as a literal divine verdict. So the combatants walked onto that field fully prepared to die.
Wow.
They were willing to wager their actual lives before knowing the result, based entirely on their absolute certainty that this unseen moral referee was real and watching.
Committing your life before knowing the outcome. That is wild. But I guess that upfront commitment is the ultimate proof of what Lin calls unwavering faith.
Yeah.
You sign the contract without seeing the terms.
Precisely. He put it all on the line.
But, a massive portion of the global population doesn't operate on that historical model of upfront commitment.
No, they don't. And that brings us to Lin's analysis of Eastern traditions. He specifically examines belief systems deeply rooted in the East, like Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism.
Right.
And according to his strict definition of unwavering faith, that pistols at dawn level of commitment, he argues these are not actually true religions.
Wait, really? He says they aren't true religions?
Under his specific definition, yeah. Because historically, those populations couldn't comprehend the idea of believing in a singular creator God without empirical proof.
Oh, so the premise of unconditionally surrendering to an unseen architect it simply didn't compute for them.
Right. They rejected that initial requirement. So instead of adopting the unwavering faith seen in the West, Lin argues Eastern populations existed and largely continue to exist in that other category on his spectrum.
A half-belief category?
Exactly. Half belief or speculation.
Okay, so if the Western approach is signing a 30-year mortgage on a house you can't see, the Eastern approach Lin describes feels much more like treating deities as a cosmic vending machine.
A vending machine. I love that analogy.
Yeah, like you walk up, you put your coin in, which is your prayer or your incense offering.
Yeah.
And then you stand there and wait to see if the candy bar you wanted actually pops out.
Right. You wait for the result.
You absolutely do not pledge your undying loyalty to the vending machine before you see the candy.
Exactly. And Lin actually includes two very vivid anecdotes in the essay to illustrate this exact transactional dynamic. And he notes these are stories passed down from his own father, which gives us this great culturally grounded look at this vending machine mentality.
Oh, I want to hear these.
Okay, so the first involves a local businessman who visits the village temple. He prays intensely to the Buddha statue, asking for his business ventures to succeed. He makes his request, and then he waits.
He puts his coin in the machine.
He puts the coin in, and in this case, the machine delivers. The man's business booms, and he makes an absolute fortune.
Nice.
So, to show his gratitude, essentially, to close the transaction, he returns to the temple and pays to have the entire Buddha statue painted solid gold.
Oh, wow. Literally painting it gold. That is a very clear, tangible reward for service rendered. It works, so the deity gets a bonus.
Right. But the second story presents the inverse. So a gambler goes to the same temple. He prays to the Buddha for a massive windfall at the gambling tables. He puts his coin in.
And I guess he doesn't hit the jackpot.
He loses everything.
Yeah.
His family is completely financially ruined. The man is so furious at this failure of the cosmic vending machine that he returns to the temple, ties a thick rope into a noose around the Buddha statue's neck, yanks it off its pedestal, and physically drags it through the dirt around the village.
Are you serious? He dragged it through the dirt.
Dragged it for several laps, yeah.
That's incredible. He's punishing the deity for breach of contract.
Exactly.
If we look at this analytically, it perfectly encapsulates Lin Xiaoyang's concept of, result-based speculation. Belief in this system is judged entirely in hindsight.
Yes.
If the prayer works, the deity is deemed effective. It gains temporary credibility and gets painted gold. But if the result doesn't match the expectation, the deity is completely discarded or even humiliated.
It's an investment strategy, not faith, You are testing the waters to see if a particular spirit or statue is reliable before you commit any real internal reverence to it.
Right.
And Lin argues this creates a fundamentally different sociological environment. He connects these two distinct modes of belief, Western upfront faith and Eastern result-based speculation, to the broader societal concept of the contract spirit.
Okay, so contract spirit being the willingness of individuals in a society to make binding agreements with each other, right? Like trusting the system enough to accept the consequences up front.
Yes, exactly. Lin argues that the Western model of unwavering faith, the mindset of the dualist who commits to the fight before the outcome, serves as the philosophical bedrock for the contract spirit.
That makes sense. The cultural habit of making absolute commitments to unseen authorities translates into a willingness to sign binding legal and social contracts.
Right. You trust the structural system, you bind yourself to the consequences, whatever they may be.
And if your cultural baseline is Eastern speculative half-belief, you're naturally going to apply that wait-and-see approach to your business, your politics, and your legal agreements.
Exactly.
Because if your spiritual framework is based on withholding loyalty until the deity proves itself, you're obviously going to hesitate to take a firm stance or accept consequences in secular life until after the outcome is known.
Lin argues this creates an environment where the true contract spirit struggles to take root. People are just constantly waiting to see how the chips fall before they declare their allegiance or fulfill their obligations.
So, Lin has essentially diagnosed two fundamentally flawed paradigms here. You have the Western system of blind, upfront commitment, which he diagnoses as deep superstition, and you have the Eastern system of result-based speculation, which lacks foundational commitment and stunts the contract spirit.
Yes, neither of these models actually seem to produce a rationally grounded society. And this brings us to the absolute core focus of Lin Xiaoyang's essay.
Okay, what is the central thesis that ties all of these behavioral observations together?
Lin asserts that modern religious faith across the globe is currently facing a profound survival crisis. Not just shifting demographics, but an existential threat to its relevance.
Why? What's causing the crisis?
Because, according to Lin, faith has not been built on understanding, and it has not been built on correct concepts.
Okay, let's hover on that point, because it really is the linchpin of his entire worldview.
Yeah.
He's saying the distortion of religious faith, the reason we have deep superstition on one side and cynical speculation on the other, is fundamentally because belief was divorced from understanding. We substituted actual comprehension of the universe for blind obedience. But, humanity didn't just accidentally stumble into this confusion, right? Someone had to engineer it.
Right. Lin points the finger squarely at the corruption of power and human greed. He argues that our natural human instinct to understand the divine, like our innate cognition of the universe, was deliberately hijacked.
Hijacked by who?
Throughout history, religious institutions, he says they have artificially fractured the concept of God. They took the vast unified reality of existence and carved it up into many different competing man-made deities.
And every single one of these man-made deities claims exclusive rights to the title of creator.
Exactly.
It's like having 20 different real estate agents all trying to sell you the exact same unseen house, but demanding you declare war on anyone who uses a different agent.
That is a perfect way to put it. And Lin emphasizes that these man-made gods are not reflections of the divine, they are reflections of human authority. They are symbols of power designed to trap and control human freedom.
Right.
Think about the psychological mechanics of this for a second. If an institution can convince you to blindly accept their highly specific man-made version of a god, they position themselves as the sole intermediaries.
Yet they alone can translate the god's rules. They alone can absolve you of breaking those rules.
Exactly. And this grants them immense control over your behavior, your resources, and your societal loyalty.
It's the ultimate monopoly. If God is an invisible king with arcane rules, you need the priesthood. So by keeping faith completely unmoored from correct concepts and tying it purely to unquestioning obedience, these power structures maintain an iron grip on human civilization.
Yes. And Lin identifies this deliberate distortion, the friction between all these conflicting man-made gods demanding absolute obedience, as the root cause of countless historical and modern disasters.
Like the wars, the Inquisition.
The systemic persecutions, yes. Lin traces them all back to this requirement that believers must blindly accept the existence of power-driven constructs, which, he reiterates, is the most dangerous manifestation of superstition.
Because it's not built on understanding.
Right, because it relies on blind acceptance instead of correct concepts.
Okay, but if every anthropomorphic god from east to west is just a mechanism for political or social control, it sounds like Lin has entirely dismantled the concept of religion.
Yeah.
He's torn down the building.
He really has.
So the natural deduction is that he's either advocating for pure nihilistic atheism, or He's operating with a radically different definition of what God actually is.
It is definitely the latter. Lin reveals his ultimate conclusion here. There is only one God in the universe. But this God is not a person. It is not a judge, it is not a king, and it does not demand blind worship.
Oh, what is it?
This God is natural law. It is the underlying empirical rules that govern the universe.
Natural law. So we're talking physics, chemistry, the orbit of planets, the mechanics of biology,
Yeah.
the undeniable laws that dictate how existence actually functions.
Yes. Lin states unequivocally that this is the correct concept of God.
Well, if natural law is God, nobody can charge a toll to access it.
Yeah.
An institution can't, threaten to withhold gravity from you if you don't pay a tithe.
Right, completely removes the intermediary.
But it also drastically changes what faith looks like, because you can't pray to thermodynamics to cure an illness or help you win a duel.
No, you can't. Under Lin's paradigm, true faith requires understanding. We must discard the worship of man-made idols and instead cultivate a profound reverence for natural laws.
But most people aren't scientists.
And he acknowledges that. He knows an ordinary person might not be able to comprehend the complex astrophysics of galaxy formation or the intricacies of quantum mechanics, but they can still respect the system. They can maintain a deep awe for the structural truth of how the universe works.
Right, so instead of trying to bargain with a cosmic vending machine, you were trying to read and understand the vending machine's actual user manual.
Exactly. And the method we use to read that manual, the way we actually get closer to this true concept of God, is through scientific research.
Science becomes the new theology.
Yes. Lin argues that science is our tool for approaching the divine. Science relentlessly seeks to uncover the correct concepts of reality. And only when we possess those correct concepts, when our faith is firmly rooted in an understanding of natural law rather than blind superstition, can we make accurate choices.
Because understanding natural law allows us to accurately predict outcomes, right, and bear the real-world consequences of our actions rather than just waiting for a magical intervention.
Precisely.
The logic is airtight, I'll give him that. But let's look at the immense psychological friction of what Lin is proposing. Replacing a personal deity, a God who allegedly loves you, listens to your specific anxieties, promises a comforting afterlife. Replacing that with the cold, indifferent mechanics of astrophysics is a monumental cognitive leap.
That's massive.
Because human beings evolved to detect agency.
Right.
We see faces in the clouds. We assume there is an intention behind a thunderstorm. We are biologically hardwired to seek comfort in a parental figure in the sky. So Lin is basically asking humanity to swap that warm blanket of emotional comfort for a telescope and a calculator.
It is an incredibly demanding philosophical shift. Lin is essentially calling for species-level maturity. He is asking humanity to outgrow the childhood phase of needing an invisible protector and to accept the profound, impersonal majesty of the universe as it actually is.
Yeah.
True intellectual honesty, to him, involves understanding the world we live in, not just retreating into comforting illusions built by those seeking to control us.
It is a radical reframing of human history. We started today with Lin Xiaoyang's argument that the foundational requirement of major monotheistic religions believing something into existence without proof is essentially deep superstition.
Right.
And we saw how the Western tradition of dueling exemplified this unwavering commitment, risking life based on an unseen moral referee.
And then we contrasted that with Eastern speculative traditions, that visceral imagery of painting a Buddha statue gold when it delivers and dragging it through the dirt when it fails. It perfectly captured the result-based opportunism that Lin argues stunts the development of a societal contract spirit.
Which brought us to the central diagnosis of his essay. Modern faith is in crisis specifically because it has not been built on understanding or correct concepts.
Yes.
Our innate drive to understand the universe was hijacked by power structures, fracturing the divine into competing man-made idols designed to control human behavior.
Leaving us with Lin's ultimate solution: to strip away the man-made gods and recognize that the only true divine force is natural law, a God we approach not through blind obedience or transactional prayer, but through the rigorous, awe-inspiring pursuit of science and understanding.
This framework provides a piercingly sharp tool for critically analyzing the world around you. It challenges you to look at global conflicts and ask whether people are fighting over reality or fighting over competing man-made symbols of power.
Absolutely.
It challenges you to evaluate the foundation of your own unseen house. Are you blindly accepting what you're told? Are you waiting to see the results before committing? Or are you actively seeking structural understanding?
It's a lot to process.
It really is. And if Lin Xiaoyang is completely right, and our highest calling is to discover the natural laws of the universe through science, what happens to humanity on the day science finally succeeds?
That's the big question.
What happens on the day we map every mechanism, explain every phenomenon, and leave no dark corners for mystery? Does the human need for faith simply evaporate? Or does science itself become our new, unquestionable religion? Something to think about. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.